So what is alcohol-related brain damage? As in, what you're going to notice if you've got it? Well, very often, if you've got ARBD yourself, you don't tend to notice things in the early stages. And very often the people around you don't tend to notice it in the early stages. We tend to find people presenting to treatment services when they've got memory problems. And the memory problem is a particular type of memory problem. It's short-term memory. So you may be able to remember things from years ago, and that people often say, oh, my memory's great because I can remember when I went to school and I can remember my first job. Yeah, but can you remember exactly what happened yesterday? Can you remember the conversation you had with your spouse this morning? So if you've noticed that as someone who lives with a dependent drinker, that you're having to repeat yourself over and over again because they can't remember what you've told them, then that might be a sign that ARBD is on the horizon. The other thing they'll forget is leaving cookers on, leaving microwaves on, leaving the bath running, those sorts of things. And those impact on your everyday life. They kind of shout at you. So people notice those things. But what we're aware of is that there is an earlier stage of alcohol-related brain damage where a different part of the brain has been affected. And that part of the brain, not the memory part of the brain, this part of the brain is something called the prefrontal cortex. Posh name, but it's essentially the part of the brain that acts as the controller, the coordinator of the rest of the brain. So it kind of monitors what's going on in the brain, it monitors what's going on in the environment, and it modifies your decision-making processes to make sure that you make the right decisions about what you're doing, what you're saying, what you're thinking. And when that's damaged, then that coordination process, that controlling process has been damaged as well. So people might become a little bit impulsive. They might struggle to string together actions that are needed to complete a particular task. They might find it difficult to control their impulsiveness. They might be quite irritable. So it can change things subtly, things that people often think, oh, it's just because they're drinking all the time. But fundamentally, what it's impacting on is decision making and motivation. And those are the things that we often want people to be able to grab hold of early on in treatment. So if you go to an alcohol treatment service and they ask you to plan your treatment goals and work out how you're going to get there, and they ask you to turn up to your appointments on time, and they ask you to make big decisions about controlling your drinking, and you can't do that because the part of the brain that would normally do that is damaged, then you're going to struggle to engage with those services. So these changes at the early stages can be difficult to pick up, but if you feel like that something like that is going on for you or someone you know, then it is very important to get those things checked out as early as possible.